I don't know what your current background is and what is the business your company is doing and what are the cloud they have already adopted and what are your career aspirations. So we'll talk about your the best certification for you later. Before that, we will start from the various certificates available from different vendors and which certificate is best for which type of professionals, which area, etc. So I hope everyone joined the session whoever wanted to join. So we'll get started now. Okay, so many of you might already know me, but this is just for the people who are new to these sessions. So my name is Ilyas. I'm a cloud security consultant. I have more than 9 years of experience into cybersecurity consulting. I have worked in different areas of cybersecurity throughout my career. I started from network security, email security. Then I worked on cloud security, and data protection, data leakage prevention, and now I'm working on the latest technology, which is known as Cloud Access Security Broker. So we will also have a session on cloud security and CASB, which is also known as Access Security Broker. These are two hot topics right now in the market, and everyone is going towards these. So we'll talk about that later. Today we are going to talk about what are the top certifications available and which one uh, uh, what are the prerequisites for those certifications, how long does each certificate take, what is the cost of each certificate, and which certificate is aligned for what areas, and what are the prerequisites to do that. And once you complete those certifications, what do you gain after that? So we'll talk about that. If you have any questions throughout the course, you can ping those on the YouTube chat. And I have also pasted a link for the GoTo meeting. The audio is kept on mute as of now. I'm not there on the audio there because the same mic will not work for two different streams. So I'll enable the audio later there. So then we can have conversation with each other. Um, so we'll plan to start the audio after 5:30, if uh, because at least half an hour is needed to cover the basics here. Okay, so there are total four certificate providers as of now. Not four different type of categories. So the three are vendors, and the fourth one is a vendor neutral certifications, which is comprises of different vendors. So if I say like the very mostly done certification and the most required certification in the industry right now is Amazon Web Services certifications, AWS certifications. Then comes Microsoft Azure, and then the third one is GCP, which is also known as Google Cloud. So these are three market leaders, and the order of their popularity of their certifications is from top to bottom. The last comes vendor neutral. Vendor neutral certifications are which talk about the technology, not about a specific vendor. So what happens? Let's say a storage service on AWS might be called something else, and then Azure might be calling it something else, and Google might be calling it something else. To give you an example, the storage for AWS is called S3, right? Then Azure calls it blob storage, and GCP calls it something else. So these terminologies change with vendor to vendor. So the last category of certification, that's vendor neutral, it talks about the general terminologies and general concepts. So if your company is adopted any of these vendors already, and they are using heavily any of these vendors, then probably you want to do any one of these certifications first from any of these vendors. If you are not looking for a job switch, or you are looking for outside opportunities as well, then you should be starting from the vendor neutral certification. So you enhance your knowledge and then you do specialization into one particular vendor. So out of these three vendors, Amazon Web Services most preferred certification by me, because what happens, AWS has a very vast library of their certifications, and they have a lot of documentation available on their portal, so it makes it easy for you to prepare for the certification. And even if you don't want to do the certification, just to enhance your knowledge, you can read a lot on their portal. Then the second comes Azure. So AWS has a lot of videos on YouTube itself. If you just search for AWS, you'll find a lot of videos. And AWS does AWS reInvent. That's another good thing. With Microsoft Azure, there are a lot of certifications available, and Microsoft provides online free training for their certificates, most of the certificates. So if you see here, these are Azure Administrator course, and some of them I have pasted links to the exams, how to prepare for that. So these links will tell you, will these are actually the videos classes of those particular certifications. So that way Azure is also good, but when it comes to GCP is quite new to this particular industry, and since Google has always been an end user related company, they are mostly focused on to end user products. So they are not they don't have such hold as what Microsoft and AWS has hold into the companies, but they are doing good. Their certificates are still not very uniformed, and they are still working on a lot of certifications. Some of their certifications are in beta, and some of their certifications are already live. So from one aspect, this is so right now some on some of the certification they are giving discounts as well, because those are in beta. To promote those certification, they are giving discount. So that's one positive point to look at GCP. So look at all these points and then choose the certification which one you should go for. So I have a lot of information in these slides. I won't be covering everything here, because it will be more of a theoretical session if I just keep on explaining each and every text item in these slides. So we'll do more talking and less slide presentation, but I'll make these slides available to you, so uh, you can read these offline if needed. So how to become cloud certified? Basically, these are the 6 steps which you do for any certifications, not just cloud. You first enroll for the exam, then you study for it. So in terms of studying, you should be reading the study guides available from the vendor, and then the exam guides. Then read lots of white paper from that particular service provider. So it should be like, if it's AWS, you should be reading a lot of their white papers on their website, and then gain the basic terminologies, understand what they are talking about, what are their main goals from that technology, right? And then the fourth one comes practice for the exam. If you, after all these 4 steps, if you think you are ready, you should write the exam on the date which you schedule in the step 1. If not, you should reschedule. So here on the slide number 1, I first asked you to enroll for the exam instead of studying first and then enrolling for the exam. I prefer doing it this way because enrolling an exam first and setting up a scheduling the exam helps you in making sure that you are committed to writing that exam. A lot of time, what happens, we read about the exams, we study a lot, and then we haven't scheduled the exam, and we haven't invested anything for that particular certification, right? And then we don't actually write that certification, even though we have the knowledge, but we don't have that certification. It has happened to me a lot of time. So now what I want you guys to enroll for the exam first and then start studying. And most of these vendors, they give you option to reschedule the exam. If you are not prepared, you can reschedule before a week free of cost, and you can choose a later date if you feel so. But until unless you enroll for the exam, it's not really going to help you because you won't be serious about it. So let's talk about AWS certifications. What are the certifications available from AWS? We'll be talking about in each of these certification details, but let's have an overall look about AWS certifications. And before that, let's see why cloud certifications, why not network security certifications, why not SAP certifications, or why not networking certifications like CCNA or any other security certifications. Um, the question is, what is the latest technology? What is the hot requirement in the market? So um, the network security has moved to the cloud already. Now, if you look at the latest vendors, Zscaler, Cisco, they all are more into web proxies now. You don't need to invest heavily in the infrastructure. You can just put a gateway device and then you route all your web traffic to their cloud and do the scanning. So they are already into the cloud. Same goes for the networking. Now most of the startups, they don't even have their data centers. They just use the cloud computing provider provided by these IaaS providers. So the networking scope is gone unless you want to work in a data center owned by one of the cloud service providers. And then comes the specialty certifications like SAP, the security certifications, right? Of course, you can choose those, but make sure that when you do that, you are opting for something which is on the cloud. So SAP Cloud, SAP HANA Cloud, or security on cloud like Google. Google has security certifications. AWS has security certifications. Same goes for the developers. Even the developers have the native way of working still there in the industry. They still work on the offline devices. But now the companies are moving to the microservices, and mostly they are preferring the cloud-based hosted infrastructure. So if you upskill yourself, this is the time, because in 10 years from now, we won't be seeing any on-premise infrastructure anymore. Everything will be on the cloud. So if we don't upskill right now ourselves, then probably after 10 years we will be like out of the technology, and we will be having very less options for our career. So this is the time to upskill ourselves. I'm doing it, and you should do that as well. And this is the discussion which will help you out in choosing which certification to choose, and how to start from there. And as I said earlier, we will have a direct conference call as well where we can talk about it. And since most of you know me personally, you can call me and discuss as well if you need any help. All right. So now let's come back to the certifications provided by AWS. So the very first certifications is AWS Certified Cloud Practitioner. Then comes AWS Certified Solution Architect Associate Exam. Then comes AWS Certified Solution Architect Professional Exam. Then comes AWS Certified Developer Associate. Then each of these exams, the Developer Associate, SysOps Administrator Associate, they have professional versions of these certificates as well. So the associate is the basic level of exam. Like if you look at the first one, AWS Certified Cloud Practitioner, that's a very basic. That's where you start your cloud journey if you know nothing about cloud. This is about basic terminologies used in the cloud, why cloud, what are the characteristics of cloud, etc. And then comes the Solution Architect associate exam. In associate exam, you understand about various AWS infrastructure related information like what is EC2, what is Route 53, and what is elastic storage, what is block storage. You come to know about all these and which one to prefer, what are the billing models of each service, uh, and you can choose the one best option in terms of billing as well as the performance. So that's the basic one, and then the professional one comes, which is in more detail. So what happens usually in a company where the architects are working to design the cloud infrastructure, so there is the person who actually there are two people. One who actually deploys the solution. So and there is another person who actually architects the design. So if we talk about it, there is an architect. If we see in our current world, if you want to build a house, there is an architect who draws some lines on the paper and tells where the window should come, where the door should come, and different things, right? And then there is a labor or an labor head who actually puts the bricks, cements, etc., and builds a house for you. So the person who's drawing the lines is the professional here, the certified cloud solution architect professional, and the person who's doing actually the hard work, he's the associate. So you should be starting from the associate, and then you should be moving towards professional. So you are more into architect once you do the professional certifications, and then you have people who will be actually working on those designs created by you. So this is about the infrastructure. So first three certifications are mostly the second two certifications. Leave the first one. These are about the basic infrastructure architecture perspective. The first one is about the basic, which should be done by everyone. And then the third one is for the developers who actually, the fourth one, certified developer associate, that should be done by the developers who are actually going to write the codes on the Kubernetes or containers or the Elastic services provided by these vendors. And then comes the operation part of it. So there are now two things. One is SysOps and one is DevOps. So SysOps, earlier in the companies where we used to have data center, there used to be a system operations team which used to take care of the data center or any sort of infrastructure related problems. So they used to monitor the systems, and if anything goes wrong, they used to fix it, do all the maintenance work. Now that operations, when it converts into cloud, it becomes SysOps and DevOps. So SysOps is the basic one where this person monitors everything, and then that again the same thing. DevOps is the professional version of it, and they are the person doing the higher work. These are the people that define the standards of the monitoring. What tools should be used to monitor, and how do you use these tools? And then the actual work is done in terms of monitoring by the associate people. Okay, let me see if there's any questions in the comments. If no, then we'll move forward. Okay. um, okay, no questions. Perfect. So I have given a link for Cloud Academy. Academy is a certificate and the exam, a learning portal where you can subscribe a personal account or buy a enterprise account if you're a company, and then learn about these certifications. It's quite costly, but a good one. So I have given link for each and every vendor there. These are the basic links where you can start from, and then choose the certification you want to do. Okay, we'll talk about these in more details about these AWS certifications. But before that, let's see what other options we have in terms of certifications. So the next option for us is Azure, Microsoft Azure certifications, right? So let's see. Let me use the graphics here. I don't think I have any graphics here. Okay, so there is no animation here. So first certification, basic certification provided by Azure is AZ900. That's Azure Fundamental. It's similar to the first certification provided by Azure, AWS. The basic certification by AWS, and this one is exactly same. So if you look at this one, Certified Cloud Practitioner, okay, and Azure Fundamentals, and then in terms of GCP, Associate Cloud Engineer, okay, and then when you go to vendor neutral certifications, the Certificate of Cloud Security Knowledge, CCSK. These four certifications are similar. So how I have designed these presentations is all these, they all have similar hierarchy. The first, they will be aligning to each other. So it will be easy for you to see which certification from Azure to compare with AWS and compare with other vendors. So let's go back to Azure. Okay. Okay, so the first certificate Azure Fundamentals should be done by anyone, no matter if you are a developer, if you are a security admin, or if you are if you are a network security guy, or if you are an SysOps guy. Everyone should do it. Then comes the next certification, Azure Administrator. This is again especially from the infrastructure perspective. Then comes so there we had a Solution Architect Associate. It's similar to that. Then you have in Azure as well, you have professional exams. So here we have associate, and then you will have professionals exam. I haven't included professionals exam here because then there are a lot of if you compare with the library of Azure certifications versus AWS, Azure has around 900 certifications, so it's out of scope to put everything here. But every certification like AZ103 will have a professional version of it as well. We can talk about that in our next session if time permits. So the third one is Azure Developer. This is for the developers. The fourth one is Azure Security Engineer. This is for the security people who are going to harden the network. Like the people who are currently working in network security, they can opt for it. And similarly, AWS also has a security certification available. So that's called AWS Certified Security Engineer. I missed to put that into the slides. But no worries. The next one comes Azure AI Engineer. That's for artificial intelligence. That's for the data science and data scientists who are working on the machine learning and all these things. And then the last one is again Azure Data Scientist. This is more specifically to data scientist. AI involves different sort of people, the developers and all, but science involves only the data scientist. So we'll talk about different difference between all this as well later. Okay, from Google perspective, these are the certifications available from the Google. So the very basic one is Cloud Engineer. So it's similar to others. Then comes the Professional Cloud Architect. So this Professional Cloud Architect is similar to AWS Certified Solution Architect Professional Certificate. So you can, it's similar to that on the same level. If you are looking from the infrastructure perspective, this is the one you should be choosing. And then comes the data engineer. This is more in terms of um, people who design how the data should be moving onto the cloud. Then comes the cloud developers. This is for the developers who are going to write the codes on it. Then DevOps, as explained earlier. Then again, here we have a specific course, network engineer. So these network security, these certifications are called specialty certifications. These are available with all the vendors. So every vendor has security certifications. Every vendor has the network engineers, and every vendor has those associate exams. So if you are interested into a specialty certifications, make sure you first do the basic certification, the cloud engineer certification, and then choose the one which you are interested. So you should be knowing the basic terminology and then choose the specialty certifications. So if you are currently working into a security firm, then you should be looking for a security certifications. If you are a developer who is not using any cloud technologies, you should be looking for something as a the developer beta. So the developer beta by GCP, they are giving 40% discount there as of now on the examination fee. So good time for the developers. Then if you are into operations, you should be looking for DevOps engineer certification there. Okay, now let's look at the next one, vendor neutral certifications. So there are mainly three organizations which are leading these vendor neutral certifications. You must have seen the CISSP certification by ISC2 already. You must have come across that. So ISC2 is an organization which creates standards of the different sort of technology uses, like in terms of security and all. So they had CISSP, which was about overall security. When you are handling the security of a company, what you should be looking into the mind. That talks about your network security, your device security, your perimeter security, your physical security, the security guards standing right outside your building, the access cards, the tailgating, right? Your electric lines, everything, your printer. So that was about the CISSP, Certified Information Security Professionals. Now, those were not very relevant to the cloud. So these companies, they came together, that did some collaboration. So in terms of their collaboration, they came up with new certifications, and that's which is available now. So the basic one, which everyone should do, is Certificate of Cloud Security, also known as CCSK. This is provided by Cloud Security Alliance. This is an organization similar to ISC2. So they are specifically trying to create standards on the cloud technologies. So back in like 10 years back, all different vendors were coming with their own terminologies, their own standards and all. So there was a lot of mismatch in two standards. There were no standards. Everyone was choosing what protocol works best for them, what are the security practices works best for them. So then this all the companies, they came forward, they created an organization, Cloud Security Alliance, and they decided to create some standards on it. So now Cloud Security Alliance has created this course. It's been, I think, more than 5 years they launched this course, and they have done a lot of very revisions in this course. So this is the basic one you should do. Then comes the Certified Cloud Security Professional. This is a replacement of CISSP when we talk about the cloud. So in CCSP, it is more focused onto the cloud rather than talking about everything. We are not worried about the physical security here. We are not worried about the security guards standing outside our building. We are not worried about the printers security. We are only worried about the resources hosted on the cloud and how to secure them. What are the best practices? So for example, if you are uploading a data to the cloud, that data should be encrypted. If you are a developer, you are accessing a cloud service, you should be using authentication rather than anonymized sessions, right? These are the couple of security considerations. So CCSP only talks about that, and this particular certification was created by the Cloud Security Alliance. It's actually typo here. It's Cloud Security Alliance, which is also known as CSA, and ISC2. So ISC2 and Cloud Security Alliance (CSA) have collaborated and come up with this certification. Now, next one comes the Cloud Essential Plus and Cloud Plus certifications from CompTIA. These are CompTIA is another organization which has their certifications, vendor neutral certifications on these platforms. So, Cloud Essential Plus is very basic one, and then the Cloud Plus is just like an enhanced version of Cloud Essentials. So if you are new to the cloud, you know nothing about cloud, you should do Cloud Essential Plus. If you're already aware about the basics of the cloud, if you have attended my previous session and you feel that you knew everything there, you should go for CompTIA Cloud Plus. There's no prerequisites to choose the next certification. You can directly do any certification. All right. Then Cloud Credentials Council. This is another council which manages these certifications. So they have their own certification called Professional Cloud Security Manager. So this is more specific in terms of security. As I mentioned earlier, if you're a security professional and trying to switch your job into cloud security, you can opt for this one as well. Okay, if any questions, please write in the comment box before we start talking about any specific certifications. Okay. Okay, so now we'll talk about each and every certificate in like for every certificate, we'll just talk about 2 to 3 minutes. So we wrap up on time. So as I mentioned earlier, AWS Certified Cloud Practitioner. This was the first certification in our list, right? Everyone should do it. You should have prerequisites to do this certification. You should have some basic idea about AWS and the cloud terminologies. We discussed about these terminologies in our last session, so go watch it and you understand what are these terminologies. Once you have that knowledge, you need to do a little bit more research and then you can opt for this exam. It's very basics, nothing much hard. You can easily clear it. So this is the first certification. You should do it. You should know these things before you attempt for any other certifications from AWS. So everyone who is trying to move to cloud should do the certifications. It validates the understanding of it validates the candidate's understanding into AWS cloud. So what are different services on AWS? What is S3? What is VPC? What is Route 53? And then what is CloudTrail? These are different things. That's what it talks about in basic details, not into much. Okay, so this exam is 90 minutes, which is 1.5 hours. They charge you 100 US dollars, which is around, I think, 6 to 7,000 in Indian rupees. Not so costly as well. Okay, the next one is Certified Solution Architect Associate. I already explained what this does. So this validates your knowledge on architecting, designing distributed solution services. So in cloud, this terminology is here, right? This distributed means in earlier time the developers used to create a single program into one single code itself, right? And if something goes wrong into that program, or they want to launch a new service, it used to be pretty difficult to find that particular small program out of those millions of lines and then reuse it. Now, in terms of cloud, they have decoupled the services, and there's something called the messaging and the queue services. So what happens? You create smaller 100 programs rather than creating one program which is 100 pages long. So you create one program, one page long, and then you couple them, and then you pass message from output of one program to another one, and then you keep on reusing these microservices into different programs. So that's what distributed means. It's like you separate your hardware or the software requirements, and then you separate your infrastructure requirements, then again you are separating your codes as well to make it reusable as well. So that's the distributed means. So this certified cloud solution architect associate exam talks about the basics of it. How do you design the infrastructure, how do you manage the infrastructure, and how do you implement applications on this cloud infrastructure. Prerequisites: none. You can directly write this exam, but I would suggest you write the practitioner exam first and then you write it. Again, the duration is 130 minutes. I'm not sure why they have kept it 130 minutes. It's almost 2 hours and 10 minutes. Then 150 USD is the price. It's charged for it. It's around 9,000. So not too costly, but make sure you enroll for the exam, then you study for it, and then you write the exam. There are a lot of dumps available for these exams. You can pay 400, 500 bucks for those dumps. These are officially dumps provided on Udemy. You can search for AWS Solution Architect Associate Practice Set. Each set will have around 1,000 questions. So if you read 2 3 sets, you will be having good idea about what kind of questions will come, and then you will be easily able to clear this certification. So these are the individuals who are actually going to create the virtual machines, create the VPN, connect different virtual machines to each other, create the routes. So there's a interesting term in AWS, Route 53. So Route 53 is nothing but the DNS in our existing infrastructure. So we used to deploy DNS, and then there used to be DNS records and DNS queries. AWS has the same thing. They just named it to Route 53, and the reason behind it, the history behind it is your DNS request goes on port 53, and that's where they picked the 53 number and named it as Route 53. Okay, we can talk about all these things in details in our future sessions probably. All right. Next question. The next certification is cloud certified. The certified cloud solution architect professional. As I mentioned earlier, this is more of the person who is drawing the lines on a paper and telling what is the overall cloud architecture strategy, how many VPN should be there, which subnet should each VPN reside, how many database should be there, where those database should be there, and how those connectivity between the the database and the application should be there. What is the fault tolerance? What is the distributed architecture? And then what is the redundancy? These are designed by the solution architect professional people. Very important exam if you are going to if you are interested into the infrastructure part of the security, infrastructure part of the cloud. So it's again 170 minutes and $300 they charge for it. Developer associate, this is the basic exam for the developers. So if you are a developer on Java, Perl, Python, Ruby on Rails, PHP, or anything, you can opt for this certification. It talks about the basic things about how to develop the applications on the cloud. You should be having coding experience. That's a recommended prerequisite, but there's no official prerequisites for this exam from AWS. It's just 80 minutes long and 150 USD is the price for it. Once you do that certification, what do you learn? Right? So what do you learn is here. You understand the basic AWS architecture and the core AWS services. Of course, when you're going to design a service on top of it, you need to know it. Then hands-on experience on designing, developing, deploying, and managing the applications. Then working knowledge of the applications about how they use key services like AWS database, notifications, workflow, storage, and chain management services. The next one is SysOps administrators. This might be interesting for you if you are already handling the operations for a company, if you are already part of DevOps, SecOps, SysOps, anything, you can opt for it. This is from this certification is from the perspective of the operations, nothing else. So it's for the people who are going to play a big role into making sure that everything is operational in your cloud infrastructure. Prerequisite for this exam is you should be knowing the Linux and the Windows servers, of course. And if you don't even know, then that's not a prerequisite posted by AWS. That's something it's good to have for you. Of course, because you will be required to write a lot of script on the Linux boxes and do a lot of automations on the Windows machines. So that's why. Length is 80 minutes. That's around 1 hour and 20 minutes, I guess. And cost is 150 USD. So the cost is almost 150 USD for all the exams, mostly. Okay. What do you learn is you learn about how to deploy applications to AWS platform, sending and receiving data between data centers and AWS. So let's say you have your own data center and then you are using cloud as well. So there are some direct connections called AWS Direct Connect. How do you transfer the data from your data center to AWS data center? That's what is covered here. Then, as I mentioned earlier, you need to the solution architect professional that will first suggest the storage services to be used and which one is best in terms of the costing, the performance, etc. Then the next person who validates those requirements is this person here, or the professional SysOps professional. They say they'll again do a second verification whether this is the right service you should be choosing or no. If no, then they go back to the architect and ask them to validate that information again. So these people are responsible for provisioning, managing, and security systems in AWS environment. So SysOps Administrator, this is a course I really like. If you go through it, you learn about all the various components of the operations part of it. Being a developer or a security guy, right? We are not much bothered about what is the uptime of the services, what is the SLA of the service, but there is a lot of hard work to make sure that everything is operational, everything recovers on time, and these are the people who really put a lot of time and a lot of energy behind these things. So we need to appreciate them, and of course, if you're looking for certifications, um, if that's kind of the work you enjoy, where you make sure that the system is working round the clock 24 by 7, people are able to work from home or remote locations, this is the certification you should go for. Next one is DevOps engineer professional. So this is just a senior version of that certification we just talked about. So these people, the DevOps professional, what they do, they provision, and then they make sure that everything is operating and managing, everything is operating and working smoothly as it must in the production environment. So, so what happens? So associate people, they actually deploy the things, and these professional people, they guide them about what services to choose in terms of DevOps work. So that's what is mentioned there. DevOps engineer certification is all about provisioning, operating, managing applications on AWS platform. The exam heavily focuses on continuous delivery and the automation of process, which is the two fundamental concepts of the DevOps. So continuous deliveries, you always keep on upgrading your infrastructure to make sure that the new services which your company is going to deploy are can be delivered on time. And then you need to do automation as well. So you need to know Linux and Windows by heart, and then plus you need to have the Certified Developer Associate exam. That's a must requirement for this certification. Or you can have the SysOps Administrator Associate. Any of these certification is, if you have, then you can write this. Otherwise, you won't be able to write this exam. Okay. And then next comes experience in provisioning and managing AWS applications, as well as a firm understanding of modern application development, such as agile development methodology. So, as Nayan, who is there on the session, he must be knowing about agile development methodology about it. This is a terminology used by the developers in terms of continuous delivery. Okay, length is 170 minutes, cost 300 US dollar. This is a bit costly compared to other certifications. Areas covered: basics of the continuous delivery methodologies and systems, setup, monitoring, and logging systems on AWS. So this point, setup, monitoring, and logging system, this is part of the setting up AWS audit trail or the cloud trail. This tells if somebody hacked into the system, they these are the logs, or if something goes wrong into your infrastructure, they are the logs to track the problem and fix those problems. Okay, so that's all from the AWS perspective. Next comes Azure certifications. Again, the same thing. First one is Azure fundamentals, validates the knowledge on Azure cloud services. No prerequisites. Length is 85 minutes. Cost is 99 US dollar. Areas covered is cloud concept as high availability, scalability, fault tolerance, disaster recovery, scalability, difference between capex and opex. Okay, then these capex and opex are the Azure's own terminologies. Other vendors are calling it something else. So don't worry about those terms. As long as you have your basics covered, you are good to go. Describe regions. Every solution has different regions. So you should be knowing the different regions, resource group, Azure Resource Manager, and architects, all these things. Then firewall protections, denial of service protections, network security groups. These are the same thing we have in our traditional firewalls. Same thing covered here on Azure fundamentals and the network security part of Azure. Then also talks about basic subscription and all, which one to choose and how much you should be paying for each service and which one is free. The next one is associate exam. It talks about the same thing, um, infrastructure part of it, how to create the VPN, how to create S3, how to create the blob storage, these things. The length is 150 minutes, cost is 165 US dollars. Now this is more into more details compared to the previous certification Azure fundamentals. So Azure fundamentals that usually cost 4,000 to 5,000 rupees, Indian rupees. Associate exam, Azure administrator associate exam, this costs around, I guess, 9,000 rupees or 10,000 rupees. And the areas it covers is like managing the Azure subscription, resource group, analyze resource utilization and consumptions, and all those basic details from the infrastructure perspective. Next comes the developers. This is for the developers who are going to build, design, and maintain the cloud applications. These are the people who work in conjunction with the database administrators, architects, and other cloud administrator and clients. So developers are the people who have to talk to everyone, and that's what is covered into this exam. What are the different things you should be keeping in mind when you are developing a system on cloud? So prerequisites is Azure Fundamental. That's optional, not a hardcore requirement. It's 1.5 hour long, 165 US dollar. And then again, the same thing it talks about how to create resource manager templates, manage and implement batch jobs, create Azure management Kubernetes services, create container images. These are the infrastructures required by the developers. So that's what it covers here. Then create Azure App Web Services, mobile apps, API apps, implementation of Azure application. So anything required by a developer will be taken care by these people. develop solutions for the users of tables, blob storage, Cosmo DB, Azure Key Vault, Azure Storage Vault, etc. Implement Azure security as authentication, as I mentioned earlier. Every application, every key application user should be authenticated. You should not be using anonymized sessions. You should be having access control and secure data solutions. These are the best practices, and a lot of developers they make mistake, and then the security people they call them and then they ask them to change their code. So make sure you do this right when you're writing a program into the cloud. By the way, nowadays there are a lot of already tools available which does on the fly security check. So as soon as you write a code, it validates each and every line. It checks whether you are doing authentication and all. If there's any problem in terms of security, it doesn't let you build the code. It asks you to fix that problem first and then you can build the code. Then next one, it talks about auto scaling rules, patterns, content delivery, and caching. So now this content delivery and caching is another technology which is also known as content delivery network, CDN. So what CDN does, it actually keeps a cache of the information supplied to the client when a server responds to a client, and the next time the same client or some other client requests for the information, instead of supplying this information from the server, the cached information is supplied to the client. So that saves a lot of bandwidth and a lot of resources on the server. So you should be knowing about it. Then it how to use monitoring to analyze and troubleshoot problems with the system. That's also covered into associate exam. As your security engineer, this is like how to implement end-to-end security, how to make sure that your virtual machines are secured. There are no open ports which can allow a attacker to attack your system, etc. Okay, I think we are running out of time here. So I'll just go to the next slide very quick. AI engineer, this is for the artificial intelligent people. Like, I mean,